Elder Scrolls is a great game. Obviously, it's been around for a long time. There's still tons of stuff to do this game, whether you're a new player, a returning player, you maybe been playing the whole 12 years that it's been out. There's always stuff to be doing inside of Elder Scrolls. But one of the things that I've noticed after diving basically only into this game for the past month and nothing really else is that whether you are new or returning, the game does not do the best job of getting all the information right to you. How can it? It's an 11-year-old game, I understand. But I wanted to make just a quick video of some more tips that I think are really confusing, even possibly for players who are much farther along in their journey. Now, again, these are not going to be every single tip at all. I'm definitely going to be missing some things. I might even get a few things a little bit wrong, so make sure you correct anything that I might get wrong down in the comments down below. Please be nice. Obviously, I'm just a new and returning player. I know this isn't what you expect on the Deltia's Gaming channel. Jacob was a master, but we're going to try and learn some new things anyway. So please like and subscribe if this helps you out. Leave your own tips down in the comments down below, and let's jump into it. First up, I want to talk about add-ons because I've had so many people ask about add-ons when they've come into my stream. These are players who either play very casually, maybe on console or on their PC. They're not maybe, you know, hardcore gamers like some of us, and they maybe have heard of add-ons, but they think maybe they're something a little bit too difficult that they can't get installed. Some of them think that they're only on PC. I still have genuinely tons of people who come in who still play the game semi-regularly who have no clue that there are now add-ons available on the console versions of this game. So I wanted to talk through some of those real quick. So when it comes to console add-ons, there are two places that you're going to want to look. The first one is going to be under options. When you hit on the options and you go all the way to the bottom, you're going to see a section that says add-ons, and this is where you will be managing the add-ons that you do have installed, as well as being able to look for new add-ons. So I don't want to spend a whole lot of time going through some of these. I might make another video about this if anybody thinks that it's interesting, looking into what the console add-ons are specifically. I do have my add-on set up on PC as well. I'll show that in a second. But basically what I've done is I've gone here and I've read through basically every single add-on that they have available. There's not too many, and as you go farther down, you'll see less and less people are using them. And so those ones down at the bottom, I don't worry about too much, but a lot of these are really great options to just really enhance the gameplay on console, and it's awesome that they're available here now. And if you're a PC player, I have a PC account set up as well that I've been working through also. I would highly recommend getting minion.gg. This is an add-on manager for the PC client. Just make sure you get it set up correctly. It took me quite a while to make sure that I had all the file and folder locations right. If you're downloading these but they're not going in the correct folder that either your Steam or whatever launcher you use to play ESO on, if they're not going to the right folder, they're not going to show up in game, and that actually took me quite a bit of time, but I'm sure you'll figure it out. You can check out some other tutorials, or let me know if you want one from this channel. Maybe we'll get that uploaded. But this one is similar in that you can just kind of check and see which ones are most downloaded, which ones have tons of plays. These ones have millions of downloads, so you know they're pretty great. It'll also help you know if you need to be updating these or anything. It'll let you know pretty quickly if you're missing other add-ons that are required, so a lot of these library ones will be needed, but this is a great option for PC players. Again, I'm not going to go too in-depth on a lot of these, but if you'd like another video, make sure you let me know down in the comments. Now for the rest of this video, we're going to be breaking it down really into kind of 4 more sections. These are tips that I found that the game does not do a great job, in my opinion, of getting to you early on, especially if you're a new or returning player and maybe this stuff isn't second nature yet. A lot of these things are things that the game I don't think does a great job of getting to you right from the get-go. So first, we're going to be talking about your gear and weapon sets. So this is the actual things that make your character who they are. Inside of this game, you have up to 12 different spots for gear and equipment. So things like your weapons, your armor, and your accessories. We're going to check those right now. Here I'm playing on console. It looks a little bit different on PC. It's a bit easier of a menu in my opinion, but I really prefer playing on my console right now. Once you're a little bit farther into the game, you'll realize quickly that you have quite a few slots available. So once you get fully leveled up and you have everything in these slots, they don't actually show up until you get something available there. So when you're just starting out, it looks a lot smaller, but you have up to 12 total slots. That is 2 weapon slots that can either be 2 one-handed weapons or one-handed and off-handed, or something that is two-handed, which takes up both slots. You have 7 armor slots to choose from then. That is your head, your chest, your shoulders, your waist, your hands, your legs, and your feet. All of these have 3 options inside of them, whether that is light, medium, or heavy armor. And then you have 3 slots available for accessories. That will be like your necklace, your neck accessory right there, and a ring, maybe on each hand, maybe on, 2 on one hand. I don't really know how they wear them on here. It's kind of hard to tell because I'm always wearing gloves. These are the 12 slots that you have to make your character out of. They give you these 12 slots because it's important to be looking to stack these set bonuses. We're going to talk about that in just a second, but out of these 12 slots, you have a lot of options for set bonuses. Some set bonuses go all the way up to 12. If you have the right item in one of each of these slots, you will have all possible bonuses. A lot of the set bonuses go up to 5, which means you can have up to 2 full set bonuses with a couple pieces left over. Some set bonuses will go to 3, which gives you obviously a few more options there to stack a few of those, but it seems to be the best options are a couple of the 5-stack set bonuses along with some extras, either using monster helmets or different accessories. We'll talk about that in a little bit. If you've been playing maybe for a long time or maybe for not a super long time, you might be like me wondering, once you get to a certain point, you start to ask the question of, well, how am I actually getting this gear? Where am I getting this stuff from? And that is a great question. There's actually tons of different ways to get gear. So the easiest way when you're just starting out is to focus on playing through the game. Just play either the storyline, do some zone quests, do whatever you're looking for to just have a good time playing the game. But as you get farther along, you're gonna wanna start looking for specific ways to get better gear sets. And so there's a few different types of sets in the game that I wanna talk about. Now, before we get too deep into talking about the gear sets, obviously I don't have a ton of these, I'm still working through it, but I did spend a lot of time trying to come to understand these. There are 2 real types of armor sets and gear sets in the game. There are crafted sets. Those are the sets that you make at crafting stations. They might be super basic, but once you get a little bit farther in the game, you're going to be focusing on specific crafted sets with specific set bonuses that you will get for having things researched, having the upgraded crafting stations and everything either in your house or maybe in a guild hall. We'll talk about that in just a little bit. But seemingly the best option is overland sets or gear sets that drop from either the overland dungeons, in-game materials, stuff like that. So maybe overland's not the best word, but for other sets that you get from just playing the game and random drops throughout the world. Now, before we get too deep into talking about the types of gear sets, whether that is the crafted sets or the gear sets that drop from the real game, the best way to keep track of these, at least for the drop sets that come in different locations, is going to be in your collections. Inside of collections, you scroll down to set items, and this will actually help you keep track of the gear sets that you have gotten through tons of different ways. So some of them will be specific to the kind of pack that you're in. Some of them will be specific to a certain type of activity like the Infinite Archive or dungeons or different types of dungeons, trials, arenas. So they're really, really well broken down here as to where you're getting this piece of gear from, and it keeps track of them as you collect them really, really well. So for instance, just looking at the easiest one down here in the starter zone set, you can see right here that I actually have quite a bit of the starter zone one because I've been running a ton of characters over and over again. So I'm missing some of the heavy and light options from down here. I'll still need to get these as random drops, but as you bind it to your collection, this is so important because it then will fill in the sticker inside of this book, and it will also mean that you will not get a duplicate of that drop until every other item that has been able to be dropped inside of that activity has dropped for you. That'll make more sense in just a little bit. But so a quick tip is to make sure that you actually bind your equipment. I was doing this poorly. I was just noticing that I needed to research or get this item saved later and just dumping it into my bank without actually binding it to my character, which means that that item wasn't filling this sticker out and there was a chance that I'd be getting it from another drop somewhere, which is not great. But inside of here, you'll be able to keep track of gear that drops for you from tons of different locations. And the way those items actually drop is pretty unique. But again, we said that there are 12 total slots available for weapons and armor. That is 2 for weapons, 7 for armor, and 3 for the accessories. So 12 slots total, and each different type of item will come from a different space. And they drop pretty uniquely. It kind of starts at the easiest difficulty options inside of a map and works its way up. So things for your waist and your feet on your character will be dropping from delves. These are these little things that look like torches right here. Every delve also has a sky shard inside of it. So even if you're a low-level character, these are awesome to be knocking out super easy because you'll get specific drops for gear sets inside of these maps, and you will always, from the boss fight or possibly from chests or enemies inside of here, you have a smaller chance from that, but the boss fight is the big one. You will always get a drop for a waist piece or one of the foot pieces that you do not own as long as you bound the ones that you do. So running these a couple times, correct me down in the comments below, but they reset every now and then, and you can run them again to get a next drop in the waist and foot slot. Moving a bit quicker through the rest of these world boss icons right here, you'll usually see that there's a few of these kind of spread out throughout the maps. That's the skeleton with the thing behind it. The world bosses will be dropping a head, chest piece, leg, or one of the weapon drops. So that one has tons of options. These are pretty difficult. You'll be able to solo them pretty early on once you start to figure out your game. I'm not fantastic at the game yet, but I really do have an understanding of a couple of my characters, and so I'm able to take on some of these world bosses on my own. But from these world bosses, you'll be getting the head piece, the chest piece, and the leg pieces for your characters, as well as options for weapon drops as well. These will need to be farmed a bit more often because obviously you only have one boss that might drop 1 or 2 pieces once the fight is over, but you're going to be need to do these a lot more to be getting better chances at those items. Next up is the the public dungeon. So inside of each of these maps, you'll see one of these locations. This one is like a cave entrance, often with this world boss icon on top of it. This might be from one of the add-ons that I have installed, I'm not sure, but this is going to be in every single map as well. And this is a dungeon that you can enter inside of the map, but also everybody else can, so it is a public space as well. And inside of there is always a sky shard also to be grabbed. But the most important part inside of these public dungeons is there's going to be several bosses, mini bosses throughout, that all have an option to drop either a shoulder or a hand piece. So between the delves, the world bosses, and these public dungeons, we've actually had all 7 of the armor pieces be able to drop, but they also drop weapons here as well. So these public dungeons are a great option to be knocking out some of these collection items super quickly. And then lastly, inside of the base campaign zones, you're going to have these things that look like these little spiky circles. These are the dolmens. This is part of the main storyline, but in other areas of maps, there'll be more specific things to theirs. Things like the dragons inside of Elsewhere, or there's some volcanoes in some maps. There's storms that happen in other maps. So anything that is kind of specific to the map, these events will be where you're going to be getting the options for rings and jewelry. So these are really the best way to be farming those accessory slots as you're filling out your characters and filling out that collection sheet. And then lastly, what some people don't recognize is actually inside of these maps, there will often be quests. So zone quests, they may be main quests, they may be side quests as well. But a lot of times if you do a quest inside this area, you will also get a unique version of that set item. So you might get the generic bow that fills out that set items collection, but it might have a unique name like Sea Vipers, blah, 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 or whatever, that has the same thing as the gear set version, and it actually fills out that slot, but it usually has a unique name, and it will always be tailored to where your character is at leveled right then and there. So doing some of these quests inside of these zones are super helpful as well. But these are the ways that you're going to be chasing these kind of gear sets that drop from the world. So that's how you'll be getting those world drops, those overland or gear set that come from the just playing the game. But the other type of set that we talked about was a crafted set. Crafted sets I think are better to be focused on late game if you have a crafting character, or if you're like me, join an awesome guild. Shout out to Enraged to Confuse if you're on the Xbox North America server. Shout out to those guys if any of you guys are watching. A lot of the times you'll find friends or guild mates who have a fully leveled either guild hall or guild house or user house like this one right here that has everything that you need in it. And so these actually have access to all of the item sets. When you're doing your crafting, you can go up here to select what item set you'd like to craft it in the style of. Luckily, these guys have every single possible crafted set already unlocked, which makes it very, very easy to get these crafted for yourself if you have the material. Again, leveling your crafting up all the way takes quite a bit of time. We're talking months on months on months for some of these final traits that you might need to get some of these sets done, but there are early crafting sets that you can knock out that only require a few traits to be researched, and one of your guildmates probably already has unlocked. So when you're at these locations, you can select which one you might like. So maybe we're looking to do the Adept Rider set right here. We would select that, and then when we go down to creation, it will be created in the style of that Adept Rider. You can see that right over there, and you'll be able to make everything normal, just like you do in normal crafting, but now it is going to be part of that gear set. So this is how you get the crafted gear set. Again, this is probably a little bit better to either focus on later on in the game, or find a friend who has a high crafting level, give them as much stuff as you can, beg them for help, and they'll be able to knock these out. These do require a certain number of traits unlocked. So you'll see right here, it requires 3 traits researched to be able to do an Adept Rider set for these. But if I picked a different set like this one, the Eyes of Mara, I'm going to need to research a lot more traits. So these same pieces need 3 or 4 more traits, which means I need at least like 6 or 7 traits researched to be able to access these. So these crafting gear sets are really kind of a later game thing that you should be working on as you go, or because this game is so old and there's so many people who are feeling friendly, they will probably be able to help you out as well. So that is the best possible explanation that I can give for how to gear up your character, whether or not you understood all that. Those are the ways that you're going to want to be upgrading your character's gear along the way, and it's going to be pretty easy as you're starting out. Maybe you're still leveling up to 50 or working on those first few champion points. I would just focus on getting good gear from anywhere that you can. Those overland sets have some great options available early on, especially in those early maps. Try and fill those out, try and get them stacked, and be testing what kind of gear sets work for you early on. Until you're really focusing on in-game stuff, you don't need all these perfectly set gear sets from the go. I highly recommend just having fun and learning the systems first. Next up, we're actually going to talk a bit more about crafting. I wanted to focus a little bit on this quickly because while it's not something that's going to be unlocked from day one and you're going to be able to do everything immediately, it is something that you should be working on over time. I would recommend that you focus on one crafter character. Use this one character to learn all the possible traits, level up those those crafting skill lines as much as you can, and then you can use that character to make anything else for your other characters. If you make a habit of breaking things down on other characters, making sure that you stay stocked with materials, also making sure that you're getting transmute crystals from your daily undaunted tasks, that would be a great option to have all of these sets available to basically all of your characters as you go. This is great because most gear sets can be shared between characters when bound. Some sets are class specific or possibly character specific. I'm still working on understanding this one because in the game chat, it can be pretty useless when you ask these questions. Apparently my mom is character bound to like 10 losers at Deshaun. But for the most part, even if you bind an item on one character, it will most likely be able to be used on another character. So you don't really need to worry about getting all of your crafting leveled up on every single character because it can start to be really tedious. So as far as crafting goes, I would just make sure that you're gathering items regularly, you're breaking down things on characters that you're not going to be researching on, and on your main crafting character, be researching as many traits, keeping track of maybe what traits you still need. So if you get that drop on another character, you can keep track of it in your bank and get to it eventually. And as you probably know, as you get farther along with research, it will take a lot more time. So now, because I'm researching my 6th, 7th, and maybe 8th and 9th on some of these, you're looking at things like weeks for some of these research, even months as they get to those last few. So this is going to take time. Try and keep track of what traits you might be missing on certain items. What's really cool is that if you're looking on these items on a character, they will actually have a little symbol by it right there. That little magnifying glass means that you need to study this trait on this character. It can get a little messy if you're having multiple characters, so I recommend putting things into your bank and then using your crafting character to either research things that are missing, or if it's not missing, you will know because it will pop up here in the deconstruction area and you can deconstruct it without losing an item that you need to research on. This is super helpful to keep track of what items. So I only keep the items that my main crafter character will need to research, and I get rid of everything else. And lastly, when it comes to crafting, one of the things that I think isn't focused on enough by early players, but that you can start pretty early on if you have the time and patience for it, is focusing on learning what transmuting means and how this is going to help you out later in the game. Transmuting means that you can either do two things. You can change the stats of gear that you already own, whether that is a dropped set piece from the overworld or a piece of crafted gear that you either made yourself or got from somebody else. You will have access to changing those traits inside of that weapon if you change your mind and want to do something with it later. Every time you do this, you'll need the item that you were going to change it to, and you'll need to have it researched. But once you've done that, you'll have a transmute cost right down there of 50 transmute stones. Now, transmute stones are a little bit hard to come by. You can get about 10 every day for doing the daily random dungeon on a character, and you can stack those with multiple characters. There's also ways to get transmute stones from PvP later on as well. So this is a really important currency when it comes to gear that you're going to want to kind of keep track of so that your character has the best chance of getting better gear or changing the gear that you have later. If you get a piece of gear that you do want, but maybe it's not perfect, you can change it later. But I think even more important than the transmuting is the reconstruction. This means that any sort of item that has dropped in the overworld can be pulled out by another character using any of the stats that you have that character has learned. Let me show you an example. If we go down here to this starter zone item, again, the one that I have the most of because I've been running this a lot as I'm building my new characters. My goal for the end of the year is to have all 7 classes level 50 on this account. Hopefully you guys will follow along with some of our streams and check those out. But if we were to go here, I'd be able to go into the starter zone area, and any of these trainee armors that I have added to my collection book, I will be able to pull back out for a decreasing cost. You'll see up there right above the belt that the cost for one item here is 42 transmute stones. That cost goes down as you have more items from this collection unlocked. So if this character wanted to pull out these shoes of the trainee at their current level, that way I could fill out a trainee armor set, gear set bonus a little bit faster. I would go here, I would click on it, and it gives you kind of a smaller crafting menu that allows you to pick the trait if you have it researched and you have the item for it, and will allow you to go all the way up to legendary quality if you have the items for it as well. And over there on the right, you will see the full cost of creating this item. It's going to use the elements that you need to create it. It's going to use your transmute crystals, and it's going to use one of these traits if you install that as well. So this reconstruction option is great for later characters using items that you already have unlocked on your account. So make sure you're binding those items when they get dropped, keeping track of them. That way you have a much easier time of getting other options for your characters later down the line. Next up, I want to talk about some combat tips that the game I think shows a few times throughout if you're doing the tutorials, but it never really explains it enough in my opinion, and I don't think that you really have an understanding until you really have it explained to you quickly. The first one I'm going to talk about is a mistake that I'm sure we're all making a little bit at the beginning that we're not focusing on as much as we should be. There are a few basic actions in the game. You have a regular attack that is a quick light attack that you tap once. You have your heavy attack that usually when you hold it down will build up and do a bit more of a heavy attack that takes a little bit longer to complete. You also have blocking, which will negate some of the damage brought onto you by enemies. And inside of blocking, you can also press the trigger at that same time to bash and interrupt. We're going to talk about that in just a second. You have the dodge ability where you hold down the blocking button and then tap A on your keyboard. It might be down to somewhere else, but the dodging ability, which rolls you away from an enemy and will make their attack either miss or get you out of an area of effect damage that's coming your way. And then lastly, it's hard to show without being in a specific spot, but you can break your crowd control by pressing those two buttons when you're stuck down as well. That's your left trigger. It's kind of the same option as bash, or it might be keybound differently if you're playing on PC, but you can break crowd control that's been put on you. Those are the basic aspects of combat, but I want to explain them just a little bit more. One of the things that I didn't learn until way too late in the game was that you shouldn't just be spamming your dodge unlimited. Once you hit dodge, you'll notice that you actually have a little bit of a debuff. It's shown by the green around my feet there, and the debuff is counting down. Every time you dodge and then you stack another dodge, it's going to be using more and more of your XP every time. You can see that those are stacking. You can see that my stamina is draining a lot quicker to the point where I actually can't even dodge anymore. So you're going to want to be using those dodges a little bit more sparingly. Another aspect of combat that I don't think that they explain too well is that every single attack that you have, whether it is melee or range, actually has a bit of range to it. Ranged attacks obviously can be done from a lot farther, but melee attacks also have a range of 7 meters. So you do not have to be standing right up next to the person to actually get that attack. You'll notice right here, I'm targeting this bear, targeting the bear's butt, sorry bear, right from back here. You can see that some of my skills that require me to be a little bit closer within normal range are not going to be able to be used right now because they're blacked out. But as you get closer, when those things pop in and now you're within range of that bear, now he's being aggroed by me, even from this range, my melee attack will land. You can see right here, I'm doing this just normal melee attack right from by it, but I don't actually need to be this close to him. As long as I'm within range of these skills, or within that 7-meter range, I believe, melee attacks will hit every single time. So you don't have to be standing right by them, even if you're doing a melee character. You have a bit of range to you. Another reason why those basic melee attacks and heavy attacks and blocking are really important is because that is probably going to be your #1 generator of ultimate. You'll see right down there, my ultimate is not charged yet. I've only used 24 of the 250 ultimate charge that I need to be able to use that skill. And so every single basic action that you do, along with some skills that help generation and other options that you have maybe from your skills and traits that will help you generate more ultimate at different times. But the fastest way to do it is by getting off one of your basic actions. That's a light attack, a heavy attack, or a dodge. Every time you do one of these basic moves, you will generate 27 ultimate for yourself. That is 3 ultimate every second for 9 seconds, and it stacks. If you're continuing to hold your light attack or heavy attack button, it will continue to go. If you're holding down block, every time you get hit, you will continue to start over that ultimate generation, and this is by far the best. You'll see right now I have 24. If I use that skill, you'll see he's taking damage, but I'm not generating any ultimate. But if I were to hold a block right here, as soon as I get hit with a normal attack, right there, the swipe, you'll see that starts to go up by 3. That will go for 9 seconds. It's going to keep going until I get stopped right here. Let me run away. You'll see it stops at 57. If I do a light attack right now, boom, I'm going to get 27 more over the next 9 seconds. Same goes for heavy attacks. So that is the best way for you to be generating ultimate in the game. Next up, I don't think the game does a very good job of explaining all of these options inside of combat as well. You have a few options to deal with your enemies as well. That will be blocking first. If you're blocking any attack at all, it will mitigate some of the damage, but it will also take a hit to your stamina if you're holding that block down and continuing to get attacked. If the person that you're fighting is doing a channeled attack, that means that they take a second to build it up. You will actually see little spikes coming off the character. I have my camera zoomed in because it's easier to see right here. Let's see if we can't get this bear to attack us with a channeled attack that we'll be able to block and then interrupt because it is that specific type of attack. Just normal attack, that swipe that he's doing right there. Swipe is just a normal attack. If I hold my block, I'll take away some of the damage that he's dealing to me. But right there, you'll see that he had all these little yellow spikes coming off him. That was a channeled attack that he was working on, and I was able to block it, which then set him off balance. So let's see if we can get another one there. If I just hold block right here, with that attack, that heavy attack that he tried to do, he is now off balance. And when he is off balance, you are then able to get that character stunned. I have a stun timer, which means you can only do it to a certain character so often. I think it's 15 seconds, but right now that timer has gone down. So the next time he goes for that heavy attack, we're gonna block it. He is now set off balance, and when you do a heavy attack when they're off balance, they get stunned, which debuffs them for a little while, also knocks them down, which means they're going to be dealing a lot less damage to you. So that's an important option to be looking at. If you see someone coming in with one of those heavy channel attacks, those are the little white spikies coming off them, make sure that you're blocking. That's going to help you set them off balance and ultimately stun them, which is huge for keeping your health up and dealing more damage to them. So we know what we need to be doing in combat. We can attack from a few meters away. We need to be blocking or dodging basic attacks. We need to be interrupting the heavy attacks that they're trying to channel on you, which are those little white spikes. And then lastly, if they're doing a channel attack, maybe that's like a magic attack or something that takes a second, like this Temper's probably going to be doing, you're going to want to interrupt that, which will get them in that off balance stage as well. Right there, you saw those red lines coming from that one. That meant that it was a channeled attack that was able to be interrupted. So the yellow lines coming off means that it's a heavy attack, it needs to be blocked. And the red lines mean that it's a channeled attack, which means it needs to be interrupted. Both of these will set these off balance, which will then allow you to stun them. Again, you may already know all of this, but I don't think this was made super clear in the early game. So learning these combat tips, when to dodge, when to block, when to interrupt, and when to focus on getting someone off balance, I think is huge. So we know what to focus on early. We know how to get the gear options that we're looking for, whether that is overland or dungeon sets or crafted sets. We know what we're working on there. We know a little bit more about combat. Here are a few more tips that I don't think the game does a great job of explaining right off the rip that I think make your play a lot easier. When you're just starting out the game, it might seem a little confusing where to go. You're going to usually start in one of 3 locations depending on what sort of alliance that you've chosen. You might work your way through that story and ultimately wind up in a little bit bigger of an area, but have no clue where to go. Every single starting area has a dock or a boat or a wagon or something that will be able to take you to basically anywhere you want to go in the game. Here, looking in Davin's Watch, which is where you'll wind up if you pick the Ebonheart Pact. If you look on the map, you're going to see these little anchors everywhere. Every one of these is a boat that will take you somewhere, and if you just hover over top of it, it will tell you exactly where you're going to go. Early on, you're going to be wondering, how do I get around here? Some of these places don't even have fast travel zones, but you can basically get everywhere very early in the game by either using one of these anchors or looking at one of these wagons, which will also travel you somewhere else. They're all over the place. There is basically nowhere that you can't get early on in the game by using these. Next up, after you've successfully traveled somewhere, you might be checking out the map and you're going to be seeing all these icons on there. Some of them might not pop up until you have certain add-ons, but for the most part, you will be seeing a lot of these icons on here, and you might be wondering, all right, well, what the heck do I do here? Here, for instance, is a little town, little house, little area called Seni. Well, this is just a random icon. It doesn't really tell me much about it. If you see a random icon like this, or maybe one that looks like a mine or a special building, or some of them might look like farms, and it's just a black empty icon without anything in there, that means that it is a special location within the game, and you're going to need to do something in that area to fill that in. Most of the time, it's a quest. If you complete a quest that's near about that area, you will complete that section, and usually those quests are the ones that are going to give you a specific set item like we talked in earlier. This one right here, the Star Plane, for example, has 2 swords crossed, which means I probably need to get involved in some sort of fight here to fill this area out. Other ones, like the crafting areas that look like this that are specific to zones, you just need to visit them. Eyeballs are the same. World bosses, you'll need to defeat the world boss. Dungeons, you'll need to be completing both options. If there are 2 for that dungeon, you'll need to complete both of them to fill this icon in. Sky shards, you'll need to collect them. These dolmens or other location-specific activities, you'll need to participate in that activity all the way to the end to fill this one out. In other zones, things like Elsewhere or the Greymoor areas, you'll have things like dragon hunts or storms or geysers, volcanoes, and things that you might need to complete. So each one might be a little unique to the zone you're in, but if you're focusing on map completion, just look around, you'll figure it out eventually what to do in that area to fill that spot in. So as you're walking through the map, there is tons of stuff to do, and just look around in that area and you'll be filling these in and often getting better upgrades in gear, sometimes overland gear set items, sometimes just things that will be destroyed pretty quickly. But in map completion, if that's what you're shooting for, which is something I love working through these areas, there are tons of ways to fill these spots in. You just need to pay a little bit of attention to them. Another tip I don't think that the game does super well at is letting you know where to access some of the things that you actually own. Whether you're paying for ESO Plus and you have more storylines available to you, or maybe you bought them, you might say, well, how the heck do I actually access the things that I own? That's where the collections come in again. So inside of those collections, you have some options for the card game Tales of Tribute, which I really like. No one else seems to, but I enjoy it. You have your set items there that we looked at earlier, but you also have this collection slot, which is where basically everything else in the game will be stored. Inside of the stories are exactly what it sounds like. These are the things that you purchase that are expansions to the game that you can access the starter quest directly. So some of them will be the dungeons, which means I want to pick up this exact quest to get into this dungeon or this area right in here. You can pick this out from the dungeon DLC area. Zone DLC. So these are going to be the storylines that take place inside of the zones in those DLCs, can be picked up from here. I own all of these. I haven't got through them all yet, but I'll be working on them on my other characters as well. But you can get the starter quests for here, for these zones, from inside of the collections as well. So sometimes you're buying things, or you're getting access to things and thinking, I don't know where this stuff is. It also goes the same for any sort of upgrades that you have inside your character. This is where you'll find your appearances. So things like items that you've already collected or costumes will be stored. Housing is the same. Furnishings for inside those housings are the same. Fragments fragments or for the Tales of Tribute games, allies are a big ones because this is where you'll be getting the assistance. So you can pull out maybe a traveling merchant with you or someone to help you break down items. Your companions are the little fighters that come with you. You have access to a few of these right out the go. If you have ESO Plus, you'll eventually get access to all of them. All of these can be found inside of your collections. The tools for things like Antiquarian's Eye if you're doing scrying and excavation. Mounts you'll have access to pretty early on so you can get around faster. Pets that walk around with you. Customizing the way your actions look. All of this lives inside the collections, and it can be a little confusing to start, but just scroll through them and figure out what your collections are because this is where everything is. The next thing that I think the game drops the ball on heavily is actually letting you know how to restart your character if maybe you've changed your mind on a couple things. There's a few ways that in the game you'll have to either spend money, either real money in the crown store or gold inside of the game to get some sort of version of this. These attribute respecification skills, bound attribute respecifications, or skill respecs. At some point in the game, you might want to restart. Maybe that's getting rid of the skills or the stats that you've already chosen. And if you're too quick, you might think that you need to spend real money to do this, but the game actually already has a really great way to basically wipe your character for free. At some point in the game, you might run into one of these, an armory station. The armory station is basically used to save your build. It will save whatever you select and put into it, and will keep that as a full build option. That saves your skills, your champion points, your attributes, your weapons, and your apparel, the Mundus Stone, everything that you've ever picked, it will save all of those items to that. But what they don't tell you is that if you leave one of these empty at any point, you can load this empty version and completely nuke your character. Now, you might not want to do this, but once you're starting out with the game, you might really not know what options you're selecting or really understand the choices that you're making for later on down the game. So once you get to a point where you do understand, instead of spending money in the crown store or gold at some of the shrines to respec, I would highly recommend leaving one of these builds empty, and you can just load this up at any time, completely nuke your character, and basically start fresh from the go to fully level up the character the way that you want. This one is available to me again in that guild hall that I have, but also there's a free house that you can get inside of the game very easily. You pick up a quest and they'll give you a free 1-bedroom apartment right here inside Deshawn, which you can travel to for free at any time. That's another real big bonus of having one of these houses, and the Ebony Flask Inn is a free one that you get. And inside the crown store, you can also select an armory station to be put inside of your house for free to have access to this at any time for free to basically restart your character. Do not spend money or time or gold on any of this. And lastly, a major tip for a little bit later on down the game, once you maybe have one or two high-level characters who are working on their champion points, one thing that the game does not do a good job of telling you is that those champion points are able to be accessed by other characters. This is my highest level character right now. He's full level 50, champion level 195 over the past few weeks. And you'll see right here that I haven't really updated it soon, but I have quite a few champion points access to right now in these 3 champion point subclasses. But what they don't tell you is that even if you log out and you go to one of your lower level characters, so another character that you're working on, that character will also have access to those champion points without being fully level 50. So here's my next character, Corvin Ashbane. He's a Breton sorcerer that I've been working on to get my sorcerer leveled up. But what they don't tell you is that you don't need to be level 50 on your subsequent characters to have access to the champion points. You'll have them right from the go, and some of them are really useful for new characters. So you'll see right here, a level 41 character who wouldn't have access to champion points on their own does have full access to the champion points and the champion bars. The ones that I would recommend inside of Warfare, just focus on the ones that you're using. If you're a Magicka character, use the Magicka boost. If you're a Stamina character, use the Stamina boost that maybe is right here. Once you fill those up, you can move on to another one that usually adds a bit more. This one's pretty easy. Inside of crafting, however, I would highly recommend first getting your moving speed up to 10, then using any leftover down here in Discipline Artisan that will give you 15% bonus to any experience once you get 50 in here. So you can use these champions points, make sure that they're slotted up in your champions bar, but you have access to these on characters even if they're not level 50 yet. This one is huge as well. Well, there you have it, guys. Those are just a few tips that I think that the game does not do the best job of telling you. Now, some of these might pop up in tutorials. I've been playing a lot of new characters lately, and I have not seen them quickly or easily enough to be explained to just anybody playing. So these are things that I have found out over my time of playing. If you know any other tips, or if I got anything a little bit wrong, please let me know in the comments down below. Don't be rude, don't be hateful, but let me know what you guys think are great tips that the game does not show if you're just starting out. And we'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.